Welcome to Dorking Out. My name is Sonia Mansfield, and I've got this bite, and it's got all this hair growing out of it, but I'm sure it's fine. It's fine. Joining me is my podcasting sister from another mister and the co-host of Dorking Out, Margo D. Hello, my friend.
The worm has turned, and it's now packing an Uzi, Sonia.
I've never heard that saying. Have you heard that saying?
I've heard worm turn. I even use that. I don't know if that's Shakespeare or not. I have used it recently, actually.
Oh, all right. Well, I learned something today. I've never heard it. We are dorking out about 1994's Wolf. It is directed by Mike Nichols, which is totally who you think of when you think of a werewolf movie. Yeah. It's Mike Nichols. Sense. Yeah, why wouldn't the guy who directed The Graduate do a werewolf movie? Sure. It's written by Jim Harrison, who apparently is a novelist and a poet, and he did the books for like Legends of the Fall, which
okay.
That's a movie that's
I can't get through that movie. We tried because people ask for it.
Yes, it's been a request, and Margo made it about 20 or 30 minutes in, I think, and you were like, yeah, and you like texted me, and you're like, no. He also wrote Revenge, with Kevin Costner and Madeline Stowe.
Okay, that I'd be interested in.
That movie is fucking batshit, and we should put it on the list. Wesley Strick, who did things like Arachnophobia and the remake of Cape Fear, and then uncredited Elaine May. And I think there are parts of this movie that you're like, okay, that's the Elaine May part. For sure.
The witty parts, yeah.
Yes, exactly. And it stars Jack Nicholson, Michelle Pfeiffer, James Spader in the James Spader role, Kate Nelligan. Yeah. And Richard Jenkins, Christopher Plummer, and David Hyde Pierce, who I really like in this movie. It's a small part, but he was cracking me up. And the special effects are by Rick Baker. And coincidentally, I had just watched The American Werewolf in London. And the effects in that movie are amazing. And these are less amazing. But that's okay. That's okay. Let's start with this. Did you see this movie in the theater, Margo?
No, I rented it, I believe, if memory serves. That was the summer I graduated college, 94, and I backpacked around Europe. So it was one of those things when I came back to America, I was probably one of those, I rented it. And I thought I liked it, but I was like, this movie is weird. And then I've seen it several times over the years. And every time I'm just sort of like, how the hell did this get made? I know that's a whole other podcast, but wow.
I totally saw this movie in the theater, and I remember at the time going, yeah, sure. Like, that was something to watch. Like, I wasn't super into it, but I didn't think it was shitty. Like, I was like, yeah, I liked that. That was entertaining. But then I forgot about it. You know, it didn't stay with me. For some reason, I had it in my head. This feels like a fall or winter movie, but it actually came out in the summer.
Right. June. That's
weird. It's weird to me that it would come out in June. Anyway, I have to say this, I hadn't seen it since the theater, and you watched it because it's on the Criterion channel. And you were like, we should talk about Wolf. And I had such a good time rewatching this movie. It's a really weird movie, but I really liked it. It's super watchable. I liked it.
Everybody's doing a good job. I mean, this is the overall. I don't know what Michelle Pfeiffer is doing here. I guess she wanted to work with Mike Nichols.
Yeah.
Because she's already worked with Jack Nicholson before.
Right.
And she's capable of so much more. And she sounds a little defensive about it when you see interviews, because she's like, well, I was tired of wearing a corset and doing period pieces and crying.
Yeah.
Like, I just wanted to do something different. I'm like, okay. It was supposed to be Mia Farrow in that part. Right. But Jack Nicholson plays a book editor, and he's actually a bit of a, we're supposed to feel sorry for him. He's middle-aged, and he's getting, aged out of his job. And his wife is fucking around. And I think, like, the locations are great, like the Long Island mansions. it starts off with Jack Nicholson driving home, and he hits a wolf dog.
Yeah.
And then gets bit.
Yes.
And then he comes home, and he's got this transformation happening. So he wasn't quite sure what he hit. And like you said, these special effects, like, it's pretty realistic. And then then you can see it's animatronic dogs, like in the background. Yeah. But he basically, over time, pretty quickly, he starts to transform. So he gets kind of hairy. His sense of smell really increases.
Yes.
His eyesight is much better. He doesn't need reading glasses. His sex drive goes up. And he just has a little more ballsy.
Yeah.
So he's like his inner animal. So he's competing for a job with James Spader, playing the James Spader role to its James Spaderish perfection.
Totally. It's so James Spadery. If somebody else was playing this role, we'd be like, why is someone else playing the James Spader role?
Exactly. And then it's so quaint in the idea that it's a book publishing house and that Christopher Plummer is a multi-billionaire and is going to buy into it. And he's basically telling Jack Nicholson, you're going to get fired. You're going to be, and Jack Nicholson's very popular with his authors, but it's not much of a go-getter, or, like you said, he's middle-aged. We're supposed to feel sorry for him. He's middle-aged. He's a little, he's nice to people.
I was going to say, that's actually the most unbelievable thing in this movie to me is Jack Nicholson as like some sort of meek schlub that everyone walks. Like, at no point am I willing to believe that of Jack Nicholson, because he's Jack Nicholson. So you never believe that. But one of the things I was thinking about while watching this movie was, this is like a movie about a midlife crisis, but it's a werewolf story. So
it's his inner man. It's inner wild man.
Yes.
That's he's, being. So what's happening is his sense of smell goes up. It's one of those things. He walks around the office and some guy comes in smelling like tequila.
Those scenes are funny.
Him out on it. I love those scenes.
Yeah.
I think they're great. And he just gets ballsier. James Spader turns out, not only is he going to take his job and is pretending like, I had no idea. What? He's stooping his wife, Kate Nelligan, in a very small part too.
Yeah, very small.
And then, because she's really good. And then, so he all of a sudden moves to the Mayfair Hotel. And in all of this, we meet Michelle Pfeiffer, who's mid-30s, insanely beautiful.
Gorgeous. Gorgeous.
My God, she's such a hottie. But she's the spoiled daughter of the rich guy.
Yes.
And she has a younger brother, we hear, died by suicide. And we're not quite sure. Her whole thing is that she's rebellious and she rides horses. I don't really know. She's not dumb.
No, I think her character's interesting. I read a lot about, why is Michelle Pfeiffer in this? And, she's saying like, well, I wanted to work with Jack Nicholson again. And, I wanted to work with Mike Nichols. And I think that character is actually kind of interesting. They drop these hints of like, she was a wild one back in the day. Like, she was she was always rebelling against her dad, right? Like, there's this, she gives this big speech about like how she used to run with the element and be like kind of a bad girl. And that's why she can like, figure out how to open handcuffs with a safety pin or whatever she's doing. And they also casually drop that her brother committed suicide and that he used to live with her. So I'm like, she's kind of used to taking care of people. They also drop at some point that she was almost a psychiatric nurse.
You got more out of this than I did.
Like, it's it's like one line. She's like, well, I can help you because I was almost a nurse. And I'm like,
what's that mean?
It just means that they're trying to establish why she would be taking care of Jack Nicholson. Why, after seeing him twice, and both times he almost collapses in what appears to be a heart attack. Why she
and
then
scares her horses.
Yeah,
by the way.
Scares her horses, and why the third time she meets him, she's like, "Yeah, I'm totally gonna hit that." Like, it doesn't make sense, but I appreciate the effort.
Well, she looks great. The house is beautiful. I mean, it's one of those gilded cage kind of things. Like she's like, we're supposed to feel kind of sorry for her ish. Like she's kind of trapped in her wealth and beauty and thinness. I don't know, but she has this gorgeous house that she lives on the premises. Yeah. And then Jack Nicholson can drive out there whenever he wants. He just drives out there, and every time he does, she's available. And she's like, you know what, Dad? He's not there to meet you. We're having lunch. Yes. And then it's sort of a joke, like, peanut butter and jelly, because she can't cook. That's not her thing. I know. And then there's a scene where he basically says, like, you're really boring underneath all this, which I liked.
I wrote about that scene too in my notes, because in the middle of this werewolf movie, there is this part where, he gives a big speech about how he's trying to figure her out. And he's like, you're really beautiful, but you're very defensive, and you put that up and you hope that people will see you for more than your beauty. But then the only reason anybody would do that is because you're beautiful. Or like, it was a very, and they're eating their peanut butter and jelly, and they work really hard to establish Jack Nicholson as a nice guy too. Right. Like there's this, when they first meet, he says to her, like, you're perfectly safe. I'm married. And then she says, that makes you perfectly safe? ? And he's all, yes. And I wrote, bless his heart. Like, there's just these weird little moments in this movie, like that speech, that I'm like, what movie is this trying to be?
And she just says to him, well, I appreciate your keen insight. Yeah. Like, she's been told that before. I'm like, okay, but what's this all about? But she's like, hey, let's have dinner now. We just had lunch. Let's, go for a walk and then have some dinner. And I'm like, okay. I like seeing them together. They look like they're fun. Yeah. And then Jack Nicholson goes back to the publishing house, and he's basically, they were overlooking him for a promotion, like taking him down as editor-in-chief of the book publishing company. And he basically rounds up the troops and says, let's just say we're going to threaten that we're going to start our own publishing company. Get all your authors. And David Hyde Pierce is hilarious.
He is.
You're my God. And Mary as the secretary. Yes. Like, I love all that shit. I wish it was more there.
Yes.
There needs to be more of that there. And then, so James Spader, Christopher Plummer likes his moxie. Jack Nicholson likes how he's turning more animalistic, more sure of himself. And basically, okay, not only can you keep your job, you're going to get a lot more money, and you could fire anybody. And you can handpick the person who takes the job after you, which I've never heard of, but I guess that's a thing rich white people get to do. I don't know. But James Spader freaks out. And I'm like, well, there's a lot at the time anyway. There's a lot of publishing houses in New York.
You were so funny. I wrote the same thing. I was like, you're going through a lot of trouble for this job. I'm like, just update your resume and move on.
Go to Simon and Schuster, Flatiron Books, Doubleday.
No.
I'm like, HarperCollins.
There's only one publishing job in all of New York, Margo.
I get it. That building is cool. I would want to work in that building. And I like working from home, but yeah, exactly. That's the first thing. And then he's like, well, you could just do marketing now. I'm like, those are two separate jobs, editing and right? But yeah, James Spader's having a conniption. So Jack Nicholson finds them together, James Spader and Kate Nelligan. And he tells his wife, like, it's over. He moves into the Mayflower Hotel. And then that whole thing, like, she wants him back.
Yeah.
And wants to apologize. And he's like, nope. Like, it's done.
Yeah. That's because he's already done with her at that point. Like,
no, he's going to shtup Michelle Pfeiffer.
Yeah, he's on to Michelle Pfeiffer.
He's got somebody younger. Like, he's ready to, he's ready to trade in, excuse me. So he goes, and so then James Spader is, when Jack Nicholson goes to James Spader's, I'm not sure how in this universe what the rules are. Jack Nicholson is bitten by a wolf. So he starts to become a wolf. Jack Nicholson bites James Spader.
Yes.
So he becomes, but in between that, he had sex with Kate Nelligan.
Yes.
But she never transformed. Maybe. But he has sex with Michelle Pfeiffer, and then, spoiler, at the very end, we get the idea anyway, she's transformed.
Yes.
So the hot beef injection only works sometimes?
I wondered that myself and wrote that in my notes. Like, I don't understand the rules. I was wondering, did Kate Nelligan die before she was able to transform?
Okay, I forgot the part that she was murdered. Good point.
But at the same time, like, he had sex with her first.
Yes.
And James Spader is already turning. So if you're going to, follow that timeline, she probably should have already been
when
turning.
She met with him.
Yeah.
There should have been some hint about that happening to her.
Yeah.
So does James Spader kill her? Is that what it is?
So,
or is it Jack Nicholson? Do we not know?
No, I think it's James Spader.
That's what I think too.
But I don't even know if they say that explicitly.
She dies, and then Christopher Plummer's like, wow, I feel bad for Jack Nicholson. His wife just got murdered. And then James Spader like, well, he probably did it then, because they always – so if he's guilty, can I have his job again, please, please, please?
Yeah. Please, come on. Please, please, please. Okay. I'll be your best friend. Come on.
It's so – this movie's – I'm telling you right now, it's super watchable.
It is. I know we're sounding like we are making fun of it, but also it is really, really watchable. And it's just, the rules are, there's like a whole scene where Jack Nicholson goes and he talks to like an old academic about, like an old professor about werewolves.
I like that scene.
Yeah. And then of course it ends with like him, the professor asking him to bite him so that he can have these werewolf powers, because they kind of establish early on, and I sent out this tweet that was like, being a werewolf seems kind of awesome at first. Because you get like he doesn't need his glasses anymore. He's like reading and he's not wearing his glasses. His hearing improves. His sex drive improves. He's got all this energy, and I wrote in my notes.
Around Central Park.
Yeah, I was like, ask your doctor if being a werewolf is right for you. Like, it's totally one of those, like, you could see why maybe it was like, and then maybe I'll just lock myself up in a cage a couple days a month. It's like, it's not that big a deal.
Yeah.
Because it seems like a good thing. But they don't, I feel, he never turns into like, we never see like a real awesome transformation like you do in, say, American Werewolf in London. And of course, American Werewolf in London does it so well that I understand, like, maybe movies don't want to even try. I don't know.
Well, even Michael Jackson did it in Thriller.
I know.
Remember?
Right. And
Yeah.
I think Rick Baker did the special effects in that
Yes.
too. They just don't ever do it because maybe it's almost like this movie is trying to show you what it might really be like if a man turned into a werewolf while living in New York or something. And we never see him like really turn into a wolf. He gets more hair and his eyes turn like yellow. I wrote in my notes, he turns into Wolfman Jack. Basically.
That's the joke.
That's the joke, everybody. If you're old, you'll get it. And if you're not old, you should Google it.
No, his hair changes a little bit, like around the hairline. He gets fangs, but I think it's only at night.
Yeah, it's only full moon.
That's when he transforms.
Yes.
But his hearing is better. His sense of smell is better, which I'm not sure I would really think of good things myself. I mean, the eyesight I could go for, but I don't want to. I live in New York. I don't want to smell that much.
The subway would be unbearable.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Walking by a trash or whatever, it would just be like, ugh. But so that's it. Like he's going to get promoted. He's going to have this big job, but then all of a sudden his actions are getting weirder and weirder. So in the middle of the night, he tracks down a deer, and I wrote in one of the I looked in the trivia. It's like, if this was shot day for night, I'm like, it fucking looks like it's day for night.
It totally looks like it. They didn't fool anybody with that one.
No. And so he kills this deer, which makes me upset, of course.
Yeah.
And then in another scene, he's just walking around Central Park, and he goes by the Central Park Zoo.
He's grocery shopping.
Only one there. He's only one there.
He's grocery shopping.
And David Schwimmer is
I
one of the cops that stops him.
Oh, come on. Don't eat the... Don't. Oh, he got away and he took my cuffs.
We're on a break.
We were on a break.
We're on a break now. So you don't know if he attacks any of the animals in there or not, but that's where he gets found. And he calls Michelle Pfeiffer and says, I'm going to tell you something. You might not believe me, but I was bitten by a wolf and I think I'm a werewolf man. And she's just been through so much stuff that she's like, oh, okay. Why don't I come out to your hotel, spend the night with you?
What could go wrong?
What could possibly happen? And so she's staying with him. And the cops show up at a hotel room and she's got that, she opens the doors, like beating her eyes, like, what do you want?
Yeah.
What do you want? What do you want with him? And it turns out his wife was killed, but he's spending it with her now. Like, he gets over that really quickly. And then she handcuffs him to the radiator.
He handcuffed himself to the radiator. Okay. And that's when she showed up. He was handcuffed to the radiator and she gives this big speech about how she used to run around with criminals and that's how she learned how to bust out of cuffs. And she picks the lock but then she cuffs him again and then they have sex.
And then she snores. Cool. That's a big thing.
And then she snores. She's not perfect. She snores.
Yeah.
She snores. Ew, she snores. Gross. Forget it.
When she snores. It's like, yeah, it's so that they're on this. It's very strange. So James Spader is getting madder and madder as he's transforming into a wolf. So oh shit, hold on a sec. Yeah, sorry about that, you guys. I had to run out and get something. Yeah. And then so everything is ratcheting up. So James Spader and Jack Nicholson are basically having a pissing contest. At one point, Jack Nicholson pees on his suede shoes.
Literally having a pissing
contest. And then they're kind of chasing one another. Jack Nicholson goes from the hotel back to Long Island where Michelle Pfeiffer is. And then Michelle Pfeiffer says, I got an idea. Because James Spader's going to come out and kill them. She's like to Jack Nicholson, you stay in the horse's stall.
Poor horse.
I'll trap you there. And then I don't know what her plan was, but but poor guy that's like in charge of the grounds. James Spader shows up and runs him over.
And it's pretty gruesome.
It's really gruesome.
Yeah.
And then he starts chasing around Michelle Pfeiffer.
Yes.
And this is where, she's wearing like a pencil skirt and a white blouse with pumps. Like, it's very impractical what she's doing. But it gives you like the opportunity to see up her dress or something, whatever.
Yeah, perverts.
But it's for the pervs. So James Spader is wrestling with Michelle Pfeiffer. Yeah. And that's when Jack Nicholson leaps into the air over the stall because he's like, I'm a manimal. I'm a manimal in this horse's cage. Salivate like a Pavlov's dog. He's like going crazy.
I want to mention that when James Spader is like he's trying to rape Michelle Pfeiffer. Like, he doesn't want to just kill her. He wants to rape her. I don't know why that's a thing. It's
a sex drive, Sonia.
Yeah, I guess it kind of pisses me off. But and then she knees him in the balls, and then I just couldn't help but think Wolfman's got nards from Monster Squad.
Yeah, and then Jack Nicholson leaps over.
Yes.
And then the two of
them the Bionic Man. Like the
very Bionic Man. If you don't know what that is, kids, look it up. And then they kill each other? I mean, they have it out.
Yeah, then they get into a big fight and the music gets super 80s, even though the movie's filmed in the 90s. And there's this part where, like, I think he kind of stabs Jack Nicholson with, like, a pitchfork or something, like, kind of in the shoulder or whatever. And then he goes to, like, leap on Jack Nicholson, and I feel like the leap goes on forever. He's like, like, just like in the air, like with his arms up in the air, like, I'm gonna, like, I'm gonna get you. And then, like, she shoots him like a million times with like the security guard's gun. But that scene is, I did actually laugh out loud because he's like,
it was silly
because he's jumping like, it's just so ridiculous.
So she shoots them both, and then the same cops in New York City, apparently they're also part of Nassau County because they come all the way out to New York.
Yes.
To see Jack Nicholson and James Spader and ask her what happened. And she's like, I don't know, they got in a fight and I had to break it up. And
yeah, I heard gunshots. I was really scared, so I didn't even come out. What happened out here? You know, and she's all like dressed in all black and she's got like the full makeup on. And it's just like, I was just chilling in my house.
I didn't hear a thing. What?
Yeah. Well, by then, Jack Nicholson is gone. Like he's turned into the wolf and he's run away.
Okay, so he didn't die.
No, he's run off.
James Spader's dead
for sure, and he's turned back into James Spader. So it looks like James Spader went nuts and like drove over the security guard, murdered another security guard who also shot James Spader. That's what they think happened,
right?
And that she missed it all, and then she says to Richard Jenkins, like, you know, you should drink vodka tonics or some shit like that. And he's like, how does she know what we drink? And it's like, because she could smell it. Because she's a wolf.
And she says, because I could smell it a mile away.
Yeah.
And then she just walks and then her eyes kind of turn. You're like, ooh.
Yeah.
She's starting to transform herself. So I guess she's going to hang out with Jack Nicholson in the woods.
I guess that's where it's going. Because they're in love, Margo. They're in love.
They're deeply in love.
Yeah.
And she said, I read somewhere they wanted to put her in a Red Riding Hood outfit, like a red. And she's like, no.
Yeah, that's a little heavy-handed.
A little heavy-handed.
Just a little. Yeah, I guess she's infected from having sex with Jack Nicholson. I don't.
He didn't bite her. I mean, she didn't get a hickey or anything.
No.
So we think it's the hot beef injection that did it. I'll just keep saying that because it makes me laugh.
I haven't heard that saying in a really long time.
Is that from like a? Oh, never mind. It's some other movie I'm thinking of. Anyway,
was it from Breakfast Club?
It's from The Breakfast Club.
Okay, it is definitely
Sporto.
Yeah.
Did you give her the hot beef injection?
So
He's
gross.
Such an asshole.
So gross. What a gross thing to say. Keep saying it. It's hilarious.
In this movie, it's funny. So then that's the ending of the movie. So what do we learn? That Jack Nicholson is now a wolf
yes.
in the woods.
Yes.
And he's transformed. Michelle Pfeiffer's going to hang out with him, I guess. James Spader's dead. I don't know what Christopher Plummer's going to do, but thankfully Jack Nicholson set up whoever should take over his job.
That's true. Well, so David Hyde Pierce is going to get his job. He said he named David Hyde Pierce as his replacement.
Oh, that's good. And then Mary can still be there.
Yeah.
Okay.
So as long as it's a really happy ending for the publishing company, which is what I was most worried about.
The big conglomerate. Yes.
Phew. As long as they're okay.
Are going to be okay. Yeah. As long as the authors are okay, I'm good. And that's Wolf.
I love that you watched this and you were like, you need to watch Wolf, because she was right. I needed to watch Wolf. It is batshit insane, but insanely watchable.
It's on Criterion.
Yes.
And I love that channel. And the best thing about Criterion, one of my favorite things about Criterion is usually with a film, if you look at it, there's usually a little documentary or they interview an author or an actor or director
yes.
or Wyatt Cenac or somebody like that. It's like, what do you think about this movie? Why'd you pick it or whatever? There's nothing like that for Wolf. Wolf is just there.
So I recently watched, I've been wanting to fill in some blank spots on like my movie watching. So I watched Akira Kurosawa's Rosh Hashanah, I think is how you pronounce it.
Rashomon.
And yeah, there's like a ton of extras, right? Because it's like a classic movie, a ton of extras. And then I went for Wolf and I was like, wah, wah.
Is it part of Mike Nichols' movies?
I think that's what it was.
And so Nichols and May, they were a comedy team in the 60s. And then he went into directing and she went more into writing. She directed a few things.
Right.
But he was more the writer, director, auteur. Like he was known for really getting along well with actors. They like working with him. He did The Graduate. There's a bunch of Mike Nichols movies. Silkwood, I loved it, but nobody seems to have Silkwood. It's a really tough one.
Yeah. Well, he did Working Girl.
Working Girl, we talked about
Yeah,
that.
we love Working Girl.
Yeah, he was supposedly a pretty great guy, and people love to work with him. And he's interesting. He's very smart. When you see interviews with him, he's very intelligent, and he seemed to have a joie de vivre, like a good attitude.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what the hell he was thinking with this, and he was nervous about it. I'm like, kind of should have been, because there's some choices here. I'm like, some like slow roll, like when she falls off the horse, and it just like
so weird
shots in there. Like, ooh, that's not great. And I'm glad they didn't hurt the horse. Like, I don't want anybody hurting horses to get the reaction, but
yeah, I'm looking at his filmography right now. So he did like Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, obviously The Graduate. He did Carnal Knowledge with Jack Nicholson.
That movie.
I don't know if I've ever seen it.
It's obnoxious.
He did The Fortune with Warren Beatty and Jack Nicholson. He did a lot of Jack Nicholson, huh? Because he did No, he didn't do Terms of Endearment. That's James L. Brooks. Thank you. He directed Gilda Live.
I love Gilda Live. I haven't seen it in a long time, but I loved it.
I loved her.
Oh, she was wonderful.
Yeah, Silkwood. Yeah. He did so much. He did Heartburn. That's on my list to watch.
Yes.
Postcards from the Edge. I love Postcards from the Edge. Anyone who wants to... Oh, and he did The Birdcage, which we also did.
Great movie.
Yeah.
Elaine May wrote it.
She's so good. She has a little section on Criterion too, because I just added, I think it's called A New Leaf with her and Walter Matthau. I just put it on my list. I think that's on there too. Yeah, he did, and then he did Regarding Henry, and then a couple years later he did Wolf.
I liked Regarding Henry at the time. I'm not sure if it holds up.
Yeah.
I think it's rather manipulative, and I like Harrison Ford.
Me too.
I like Annette Bening.
Yeah. It's super manipulative, but that's okay if you know what you're getting into.
Right.
I kept reading that there were all these reshoots of the ending, but I could not find what the original ending was.
How is it messier than this? Because I don't think, I'll be honest, this movie, 2/3 of this movie, I don't always agree with all the choices and stuff.
Right.
But I'm in. I'm locked in. I'm definitely like want to know where the story's going. I think it completely falls apart in that last scene.
Yeah. When you would think that two werewolves fighting would be really exciting. It was
especially Jack Nicholson and James Spader.
Yeah, it was the most boring part of this movie.
It was tedious. It was very and fake looking. It looked super fake.
Yes. It's just because there is like you could read this movie in a million different ways. And like I said, the way I kept reading it was this is allegory for midlife crisis. And so the idea of Jack Nicholson fighting like, I don't know, a younger version of himself, I guess,
right,
would be super interesting. But yeah, it was just like, the fight at the end was no good.
It's cheesy.
Yeah. So I read the stuff about Mia Farrow. I also read that Sharon Stone was offered the part that Michelle Pfeiffer eventually took, which I'm like, she might have been fine.
I don't think it's a great part. I think like I still stand, like I love seeing Michelle Pfeiffer in this movie.
Yeah.
But it boggles my mind like how she didn't insist on like Elaine May writing her some funny lines or something, like just to give her a little bit more.
Yeah.
Because to me, I'm like, your life seems pretty fucking sweet. You know, you have this lovely house.
Yeah.
On a mansion. Your dad lets you do what the hell you want. I mean, lets her do. She's in her 30s. But I mean, like, she's not beholden to anybody.
Yeah. She seems a little old to be like, I'm still rebelling against my daddy. It's like,
I'm still screwing guys my dad hates.
Yeah, it's like, you're a little old for that sort of thing. Get your shit together, Michelle Pfeiffer. Just kidding.
She's going to be a wolf woman now. She's going to be out in the woods.
She's going to be Catwoman. I love her as Catwoman so much. I don't know if I love that movie very much, but I love her as Catwoman so much.
Her stuff in that movie is the best.
Yeah, because the Penguin stuff is ew.
Awful.
Yeah. I really liked the movie at the time, but it was because I liked her so much in that movie. But I tried to rewatch it a couple years ago, and the Penguin stuff is so icky. It's so hard to watch.
Long.
It's just long
and joyless.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean,
it's tedious.
I love the first Batman with Jack Nicholson as the Joker. That movie's super fun. And the second one, not as fun, but she's really great in it. Anyway, this is our episode on Batman Returns, apparently. Do you want to hear about some other movies that came out in June 1994?
Absolutely.
Okay. The Cowboy Way. Did you ever see that one?
No, what's that?
That's Woody Harrelson and Kiefer Sutherland. And
oh, right. Yeah, Fish
Yeah.
Out of Water. Yeah.
Yes, it played at my theater.
Ernie Hudson?
I think Ernie Hudson's in it. I think that is right. What I really remember about The Cowboy Way was it had a John Bon Jovi song over the closing credits, and it is one of the most obnoxious closing credit songs. And I worked at movie theaters for like 8 years. And it was like, good guys don't always wear white.
I'll say something that's blasphemy to people. I'm not a huge Bon Jovi fan.
As a person, we like him.
I love him as a person. He's an amazing guy, but some of his songs are like, yeah. I mean, I probably just had too many friends that were too into it for me.
I do like some John Bon Jovi songs, but that song was like, don't always wear white. It was really, really bad.
He did an album of Christmas cover songs and did Lullaby of New York by the Pogues.
Oh.
And it's the most unnecessary.
Oh.
Yeah.
No,
sir. No, sir.
No, sir. I don't like it.
No.
This is a movie you and I both love. I know we've mentioned it before. Fear of the Black Hat.
Yep.
We really should do an episode of Fear of the Black Hat. That movie makes me laugh really hard every time. The Endless Summer 2.
I'm surfing. Okay.
Yeah. I'm like, that's fine. Renaissance Man.
Danny DeVito?
Yes. Good memory. Because I had to look it up. It's a Penny Marshall movie.
It's terrible.
Yeah. It's not good. I love Penny Marshall.
Yeah. She normally knows how to make an entertaining movie.
Yeah.
This was not it.
Mm-mm. Also, June 94, The Lion King. Which, come on.
What's that?
What's The Lion King? Never heard of it.
Yeah, the director's wife is on Real Housewives of Beverly Hills.
Oh, really?
And when you go to their mansion, she's like 20 years younger than him or something. It's beautiful. They walk around the house and he says all this original stuff from The Lion King. And I'm like, I need to invade that house. I need to see all those animations. I need to see everything.
That movie played at my theater for over a year.
I loved it.
I could quote it. I could sing every song. And I have not shown it to my son yet just because of the I'm like, when he dies, when the dad dies, it's really traumatic.
Did he see Bambi yet?
No.
Yeah, see, my mom was making us see these Disney movies very young.
Those movies,
they're traumatic.
I get it because this is a good way to introduce something that's really hard to a kid. You know, kids, they have to learn about this stuff, but I was like, not yet.
We always had, my dad was like the youngest and he had a ton of older relatives. And we were constantly going to funerals when I was growing up. So my mom was just sort of like, oh, they can handle it, you know?
Yeah, this is true. Oh, no, we've established before my parents didn't give a fuck about that shit. So I saw lots of things that I probably shouldn't have seen at an early age. And now I host a podcast, so.
It all comes in handy.
Look, just take good care of your kids is all I'm saying. Other movies, City Slickers 2, The Legend of Curly's Gold.
I actually really like City Slickers. I just find it a very watchable movie.
Yeah.
I do not feel that way about the sequel.
I loved the first City Slickers.
Me too.
I thought it was really funny and really sweet when it needed to be, and anything with Bruno Kirby gets a couple of points with me instantly.
Yeah.
I love him.
R.I.P.
I know. I love him. And I love the cow. What was the cow's name? I forget.
Oh.
The baby cow.
Norman?
Norman, I think. So cute.
I've seen this movie like 100 times.
So
yeah.
cute. Speed came out in
Great movie.
Love Speed. We've done an episode on Speed. In fact, I should rewatch Speed. It is one of my comfort movies. Wyatt Earp.
The long one with Kevin Costner.
Yes, it's so long.
Tombstone's better. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Tombstone's way more fun.
Yeah.
Wyatt Earp, not fun.
No,
Probably
it's a slog.
It might be good. It's not my Wyatt Earp story. That's not my Wyatt Earp. That's all I'm going to say.
Adam Risky's very upset right now.
He
listening to
is.
us.
He probably likes Tombstone better too. If he looks deep down in himself, he knows.
He's going to be honest, yeah.
Yeah. And then the last one here is I Love Trouble.
Is that Julia Roberts?
Yes.
And Nick Nolte?
Yes.
And they're reporters?
Yes. That movie is fucking weird. Do you remember? So I'm going to look up who directed it because I think it might be James L. Brooks. It was supposed to be a musical. Do you remember this? And then they decided, it's not James L. Brooks. I'm sorry. It's someone else.
You're thinking of another Nick Nolte movie, not that one.
I'm looking it up right now.
Look it up. Look that shit up. I think because there's another Nick Nolte movie with James L. Brooks that was supposed to be a musical, and it was so batshit that they just took all the music out of it, and then it became this weird movie where he plays an actor and he takes care of a daughter.
It is. Yeah. Okay. This one, I Love Trouble, Julia Roberts, Nick Nolte. It's written and produced by then husband and wife team Nancy Myers and Charles Shire.
Mm-hmm.
And directed by Shire. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, the competing reporters. Blah, blah, blah. I'm going. Music. Apparently, Elmer Bernstein originally wrote the underscore, but his music was thrown out.
That hack.
I'm. What's the one that was supposed to be a musical then? What am I thinking of?
No, it's Nick Nolte and
I'll Do Anything.
Oh my God! There's a bratty girl
that's the one. Okay, I'm totally mixing it up with I'll Do Anything. My apologies. And that is the one that is directed by, that was written by James L. Brooks.
No, in 94, 93.
Oh, and that's 94 too.
Yeah,
that's why. Okay, phew.
Yeah, see, you're off the hook. Julia Roberts made some really weird decisions with her career in the mid 90s. Yes. Like before she married Lyle Lovett or something, because she was making movies that were just like Mary Riley. She was making movies that just were like, why are you in this? What do you take some time off, and she eventually did. But there's a couple there that are just, and that's one of them. I Love Trouble is a terrible movie. Oh,
it's a stinker.
Do you want to hear some of the top songs from June 1994?
Yes, I do.
All for One, I Swear.
It's like every wedding song that year.
Ace of Base, Don't Turn Around. I loved Ace of Base.
Yeah, that was a catchy fucking song.
Janet Jackson, Anytime, Anyplace.
That's a really good song too.
Yeah, this one you couldn't escape.
She's so great.
Lisa Loeb, Stay, I Missed You.
I still love that song.
Great fucking song. Warren G and Nate Dogg, Regulate.
I love that
Good
song. I just listened to that song yesterday. I love that song. Regulators, mount up.
And Aaliyah, Back and Forth.
Oh, Aaliyah.
She was 15 then.
Oh my God, she's just a baby.
She was just a baby. She was with under the who produced her?
R. Kelly.
R. Kelly.
Fuck that guy.
Yeah.
She was so talented.
She was, and she supposedly was just the nicest, sweetest person ever. Yeah.
So beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that makes me sad.
Yeah.
Let's talk about something else. What else are you dorking out about?
Okay, so Criterion is kind of killing it for me right now. They have some really interesting movies. The first one is Girlfriends. It's Melanie Mayrink. She played Melissa on 30 something. And this is it's an independent film from 1978, and she plays a woman who her best friend is a roommate, and she moves out. That best friend moves out and gets married. And then she's alone now, and she's a photographer, and she's really young. She's like 23, and she's just trying to find her way around New York at that time. And Christopher Guest is her boyfriend.
Oh.
And he's so cute and young. It's like one of his first movies. It's interesting. It was like Stanley Kubrick said it was his favorite movie that year.
Huh.
And it's super independent. I don't know. I haven't been able to see it for years. It wasn't on streaming. It wasn't anywhere. And she looks very different. She's had a lot of stuff done. She just like her nose and her teeth and stuff.
Yeah.
So, and she had kinky hair. It's very 70s. Like the nudity is very 70s New York, the pacing, but I kind of love New York City movies, especially when it was a shithole and people were trying to like do their art and figure things out. I kind of find that fascinating. And then my second one, I'm obsessed with this movie. It's called The Hot Rock.
You posted something about it, and I was like, I'm putting that on the list.
I'm telling everybody about it. It's only available on Criterion, so just get it for a month.
And it's called The Hot Rock.
The Hot Rock, and it's a heist movie. A really good. It's better than Ocean's, the original Ocean's 11. I mean, Ocean's 11 with Brad Pitt and George Clooney, blah blah blah. It's on par with that.
Okay.
It's 1972, New York City. They're robbing the Brooklyn Museum. How they got permission, they blew up a car outside the Brooklyn Museum, like 10 feet away.
No, that sounds dangerous.
And it's Peter Yates, the director, Robert Redford, George Siegel, who's adorable.
Ooh.
Everybody drink.
Everybody drink.
Ron Liebman, Paul Sand, Moses Gunn, Zero Mostel. It's got great people. There's an action sequence where they're flying a helicopter through New York City, and it's so low, they're right by the Twin Towers that are being built at the time.
Oh my gosh.
I can't tell you how much I super enjoyed this movie. It's a sausage fest. Not a lot of women.
No hot beef injection, huh?
No hot beef injection.
Forget
it's all
it.
Just dudes. But they're all like Robert Redford is so
70s
dreamy.
70s Robert Redford was so hot.
He could be such an abusive creep to me. I'll be honest. I would just be like, okay, he could be. That's the wrong way to put it.
I understand what you're saying, though.
You know what I'm saying, though. Yeah, I would put up with a lot of crap because he's so beautiful. I would just be like, oh, okay, you didn't mean it. But George Siegel, who passed away a few months ago, I saw so many of his movies in the 70s. Like, he's such a great movie star of the time. He was funny, but cute as hell. Like, he's so cute. It's Brooklyn and it's New York City. 72. Yeah. It's just like it doesn't exist anymore. And I like a heist movie. And
I'm putting it on the list.
It scratched my itch. It's just, I super duper loved it.
All right. That is on my list. What was the first one called? Girlfriends?
Girlfriends.
Okay.
And for both of those, well, for Hot Rock, they have Wyatt Cenac. He's a part of Criterion. He talks about why he likes the movie. For Girlfriends, there's like several little documentary features, and they're really interesting. And they talk to the actors now.
Cool.
But it's a quiet movie. That one's a quiet movie. I found it compelling.
I've been watching some old ones too. My friend Fred, and you had both recommended to me The Women from 1939.
Yes.
And I really, really liked it. And
isn't it funny?
It is so funny. I'm going to look up the cast because I actually didn't originally have this on my list to dork out about. But now that you're talking about old movies.
Norma Shear.
Yes, thank you.
Rosalind Russell. It's Hedda Hopper. Or Luella
directed
Parsons.
by George Cukor.
George Cukor, who knew how to direct
women.
women.
Norma Shear, Joan Crawford, Rosalind Russell, Paulette Goddard, Joan Fontaine. And then all these people that you will recognize. You're like, I remember her from this, or I remember her from that. Yeah. Hedda Hopper, Ruth Hussey, Florence Nash. It's all women.
Yes.
All women. I don't even know if there's a dude I don't know if you even see a dude in this movie.
No, and even the animals, they got female animals. Yeah,
So,
they were really, it's funny as shit.
It is.
Joan Crawford is beautiful and mean and hilarious. It's just, and Rosalind Russell is so funny.
She is so funny in this movie. It's a really good movie, and if you haven't seen it, like Norma Shearer's husband cheats on her, and she. Because of her pride, she doesn't want to work it out. Like, she feels so scorned, and I don't necessarily.
She's rich, by the way.
They're super rich,
right.
And I don't necessarily agree where it lands. I'm just gonna say with that, I don't want to ruin it for people, even though it's super old. But I still really, really liked it, and for like the first, I mean, it's. I'm gonna look. How long is it? It's. Yeah, a little over 2 hours. I would say for the first like hour and 45 minutes, I was like, I'm living this. I'm living this movie. I think I text you or Fred and say, I'm living this movie right now. Like, I was like, it was hitting me in some spots, but the humor of it is very true. Very true. And I really, really liked it. Like I said, the ending is not my choice, but I understand it for the time period.
It's 1939.
Yeah.
So there's also, we did it for Book versus Movie. There's also a play. I saw one of those, what do they call it when they bring something back to Broadway? But they did, it was Rue McClanahan, Cynthia Nixon, Kirsten Johnston, Meg Tilly.
Oh my gosh.
It was like a murderer's row of super funny women, and you could find it. I think PBS recorded it, like did a showing, and it's on YouTube. And if you're interested, you should see it because it's got the best lines. It's just jokes, and they super land, and they're funny. And Rosalind Russell is just a gift.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a good one. I have no interest in watching that more recent remake. Is it Cameron Diaz is in that, I think?
No, it was Meg
Ryan. Thank you. Yeah.
No.
I'm a hard pass on that. Actually, the other old movie I watched was The Long Goodbye with Elliot Gould.
I've never seen it.
I think you would like it. He is playing Philip Marlowe. It's based on the Raymond Chandler book.
Oh, okay.
Or probably short story, actually. And it's directed by Robert Altman. This is me like filling in my blanks again. So
right.
I hadn't seen this one, and he is playing Philip Marlowe, and he is investigating. Like a friend of his is accused of murder, and he doesn't believe that his friend did it, so he's investigating it, and it's very interesting. He's just interacting with all these people. It's very Robert Altman. Like, the story isn't necessarily driving this movie. It's the characters, and I really like that. Also, very, very early uncredited appearance by Arnold Schwarzenegger. In this movie. Arnold is in it. And I texted you, there's like a 10-minute opening sequence with him and his cat that I thought you would really appreciate, where he's trying to trick his cat into eating food that it doesn't like. And that made me laugh really hard. I also started, and I think you've already watched it, The Me You Can't See on Apple Plus. Have you started watching that?
Yeah, wait. Is that with the Oprah?
Yeah.
With the Oprah. Excuse me.
I jumped right into like a whole other subject.
Yeah, no. So it's Oprah, and she's talking to people with mental health issues about, and it's Prince Harry.
Yes.
Of Sussex.
Yes.
And Lady Gaga.
Yeah, Lady Gaga. I think, who are some of the other people that show up?
There's not everyone's famous.
Yeah, there's non-famous people there, but there's also like Glenn Close, and they just are interviewing people about their mental illness and traumas, and I love the empathy it has for everybody, and I think. Right now, especially right now with coming out of COVID, and we all have this collective trauma now of like living through a pandemic, but also just, I think it's important all of us remember that everybody's going through shit.
Right.
Everyone has their shit, and I just really like. I've watched the first 2 episodes, and I just think it's really, really great. And I think that people should be watching it. And I texted like some of my sister and some of my best friends, and was like, "You should have your kids watch this. I think this is something kids should see, because I feel like younger people think they're all alone with their problems, and it's like you're not alone. Everybody has problems, and it's really well done. It's good."
Prince Harry, he impressed me. He was talking about his mother was dating a man from another race, and was being hassled by the press for it. And then they hounded her relentlessly until she died, until she was killed in a car accident. He said, "I was seeing this happening in my life with my wife." And he said, "I got to get the hell out." And the people still want to give him a hard time about that. And I hope that whole thing burns down.
I hope so too. I honestly, like, when he was talking about his wife and the baby, and that at some point he was looking at his son and thinking, how will I do this all by myself when my wife dies, because she's going to die like his mother died, basically. And I was like, that is fucked up. And the fact that his family still can't like offer him any kind of support is fucking disgusting. I was like, it's gross. I felt so bad for him, and I felt so glad that he broke away from that, and that he's taking care of himself and taking care of, his family is awesome. I don't know how I don't know how anyone could watch this interview and then be like, he's a piece of shit and she's garbage. And I don't understand these people.
Well, that's Piers Morgan for you.
Yeah, fuck him. He's a fucking creep. Anyway, those are a lot of recommendations.
Yeah, we got a lot to keep you busy.
Yeah, good job. This was fun. Where can people find you on the internet, Margo?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Brooklyn Fitchick, and my blog is brooklynfitchick.com.
And if you like the sound of our voices, and of course you do, you can find us also at What a Creep, whatacreeppodcast.com. We have a private Facebook group you can join, and some Dorking Out fans are there too. And you can find me at thesoniashow.com and The Sonia Show on Twitter and Instagram, and sometimes TikTok, because I like to be there ruining it for young people. And if you want some stickers, some Dorking Out Show stickers, please email us at dorkingoutShow@gmail.com. If you like the show, we would love a good review on Apple Podcasts. If you don't like the show, why are you still listening? Why are you this far in the show? Don't give us any reviews. We don't need it. We don't need that. They're a couple of Karens and they're fuck off. Don't leave us a review. Just move on. There's plenty of free podcasts for you. And this was super fun. I'm so glad we talked about Wolf. This was a really good pick, Margo.
Oh, thank you. I'm trying to, I don't like time thieves. If I'm going to give you something, I want it to be worth your time.
Well, and I think this movie might be a discovery for a lot of people. I don't think a lot of people have seen it. So if you have Criterion, you should go watch Wolf, because it is very entertaining.
And then the hot rock.
Now I'm going to go pee on someone's shoes and mark my territory.
Oh, the worm has turned.